Okay. Yeah. So, if you want, Neil, just sort of start by telling us a little bit about Vario, just in a sort of general sense, little sort of an intro for anyone that's maybe not familiar. That would be great.
Yeah, sure. So Varjo have basically created the world's most advanced professional VR and mixed reality solution. Many of us people think of us as a hardware company, but we're actually a hardware and a software company. So the overall solution is really key. The company is based in Finland. Varjo actually is a Finnish word. It means shadow. But we're kind of rapidly expanding across the world, outside of Finland, obviously across North America, Asia, Middle East, Australasia, and I'm the GM for the UK and Ireland, so I'm kind of leading that expansion across the UK. I think that the biggest thing that really differentiates us is that we only focus on professional real-life workflows. So everything we do is driven by a real kind of how people are really working in the world. We focus on 3 different verticals today: creative industries, so think like automotive, architecture, engineering, construction, medical and research, and of course training and simulation.
Cool, cool. So, did you do a lot of work with those industries, like on a face-to-face basis, almost to sort of get that insight into what it is that you're working on? Like, I'm sure if you're focused on that professional element, a lot of feedback and input from those different industries is really useful. So is that something you actually do a lot with as well?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Danny. So, as I mentioned, yes, we make VR and mixed reality headsets. I'm sure we'll talk lots about those, but also the software solutions are really key. And our software roadmap is driven entirely by the feedback we're getting from working with our partners in industry today. So to give you a specific example, Chroma Key, which is a capability that we have with the mixed reality XR1, it's just like green screen technology, like the movies. So whenever the headset sees a colored screen, it can replace it with virtual content. That feature came directly from aerospace customers using our headset and looking for a kind of a low cost, high quality way of deploying training solutions.
Sure. And actually, that kind of links quite nicely into probably like our first main point as well, is the like what Varjo has on offer that other VR or XR companies don't. Is how is the technology working there to give that sort of professional grade quality that you sort of pride yourselves on?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So in simplest terms, so all Varjo headsets, so we have 3 today: the VR2, the VR2 Pro, and the XR1. They all run in what we call human eye resolution. And that is delivered thanks to something that we call our bionic display technology. Sounds really kind of fantastic.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
In plain English, what this does is it gives you up to 62 pixels per degree of resolution. It allows you to see everything in photorealistic quality, as if you had 20/20 vision, so like perfect eyesight, effectively, which I know personally I don't have. But effectively, you've got everything in this photorealistic detail. So it means that you can effortlessly read text, you can effortlessly read cockpit displays, head-up displays, see objectives and targets out the window, not just see them, but identify them. And you can do all of that at a really natural visibility ranges. So, I know if you're wearing headsets, sometimes people say, yeah, no, you can see it, but you're leaning in, you're squinting, you're trying to make out the details. In the Varjo, you see that at a natural, where you would sit or where you would stand or where you would operate the equipment in normal life. And then beyond virtual reality, we have our mixed reality XR1. It's the world's only video pass-through mixed reality that runs in human eye resolution. So what it in essence enables you to do is to combine the real world with virtual content. If you do it well enough, you can do it in a way that's almost imperceptible in terms of where the real world ends and where the virtual content starts. And to really train with real hands-on motor skills, kind of real hands-on training in a very realistic and very training positive way. The resolution of all our headsets helps kind of beyond just that visual quality, though, because it also helps things like reducing eye strain. So it allows you to stay in the headset for much longer because you're not trying squinting, you're not trying to make out and work out what something is. You're just taking it normally like we do in normal life. So it means you can use it for extended periods of time. And because we're a professional organization, we're only focused on the professional market. We know our headsets, they need to work for long, stressful missions. People are going to want to stay in these headsets. So we have active vents and fans to get the heat away from the head so that you feel comfortable wearing it. And then we also have things like automatic IPD adjustment. So, often when people get into a VR or mixed reality headset, you need to adjust the optics for each individual user. So the distance, interpupillary distance, IPD, the distance between your eyes. In the Varjo, that's done automatically. So we have two cameras looking back at your eye. The optics are mounted on little motorized carriages, and we're able to automatically adjust it to each individual user. So when you put the headset on, you'll hear a little whirring, and that's it adjusting to you. So there's none of that, that guesswork or that estimation, or maybe new users, they put the headset on, they think it's fine, but then 10 minutes later, they're like, oh, actually, I'm a little bit uncomfortable. We deal with all that with the Varjo solution.
That's pretty incredible. That is really cool.
So with the eye tracking, sorry, Danny, with the eye tracking, does that help with the rendering as well? Is it like foveated or?
So on the mixed reality XR1, we're using some aspects of foveated rendering in terms of understanding and managing the workload for the workstation in terms of delivering the performance. But within the bionic display, we have two displays for each eye. So we have an ultra high resolution focus display that's running at this up to 62 pixels per degree, and then we combine that with a context display, which is also actually running higher than a typical commercial headset, but it's lower than that focus display. And then we fuse those two views together, but that focus display is fixed, so it doesn't move around according to your eyes today.
Okay.
Yeah, because the whole thing with the multiple displays, it almost gives like a kind of peripheral vision kind of sense, doesn't it? If I'm correct, I've seen a couple of videos around people trying to describe it.
So the essence, the Varjo headset, we have quite a wide field of view. So it's an 87-degree field of view. When you're wearing the headset, you see the whole world, and obviously you can see kind of your context of what's happening. But the biggest difference is, those items that you're looking at, that you're concentrating on, are just rendered in that photorealistic quality that you're just like, wow. I can see everything, and suddenly the sort of interactions that perhaps people haven't felt that they could do in VR or mixed reality before, or they thought the technology isn't quite there, it's suddenly there for them, because you really can, recreate the real world in whether it's in research or training or however you're using it. But I must stress that the peripheral vision is still kind of very high. It's just that the focus display is incredibly incredibly sharp.
Sure, that's amazing. And actually, another question, just to backtrack a tiny bit, was when you were initially talking about the VR and the XR, like how would you describe the VR and the XR in terms of like the biggest difference in terms of applications and even how they just work functionally for anyone that's not familiar with because I know that XR is quite a new thing compared to virtual reality. I feel like virtual reality has probably been around a little bit longer maybe than the XR has.
So the easiest way is to start actually with the similarities. So all Varjo headsets all run in human eye resolution. So they all have the same display technology. They're all running in that same up to 62 pixels per degree photorealistic. All Varjo headsets all have integrated eye tracking technology. So that covers not only, I've spoken about the automatic IPD adjustment, but we have gaze tracking. For example, you can build gaze interactions into your training, into your research. You can sit down after someone's done a training exercise in VR and assess how they performed using that eye tracking technology. That's across all of the headsets. The step up with the mixed reality is we add two 12 megapixel digital cameras, and they are filming the real world all the time. And then we get that video feed back into the workstation super fast. we insert the virtual content, and then we play that back to your eyes, all in less than 20 milliseconds. So, you know, it's super fast. Less than 20 milliseconds isn't really perceptible to the human brain. You know, it'd be natural if you were wearing the headset now. We could talk to each other. You'd see mouths moving totally normally. I could throw you a tennis ball, you'd catch it, you know, absolutely fine. I think our partners at Volvo have even been posting videos. They posted videos on Twitter playing table tennis wearing one of these headsets. So it gives you the idea. But that's effectively the difference between the VR and the mixed reality. The foundation in terms of developing for both is the same. You start that development, you know, for mixed reality in virtual reality, and then you add the mixed reality and the video depth into your simulation at that point. So there's a lot of similarities, but mixed reality is really taking it that next step further in terms of natural interactions, in terms of natural uses, the capability to, you know, use the real controls that you'd use in the real equipment or the real aircraft or the real vehicle, whilst having the scenario or whatever experience you're having generated virtually for you.
Yeah. So is that kind of like a way? Is the XR kind of where the VR headset can use the green screen, or is it the XR that uses the green screen?
Yes, it's the XR that uses the green screen. So
Gotcha.
with the XR one, so those cameras, obviously we can have the world around you, but we can also train those cameras to pick up on specific elements. So with chroma key, what it's doing, it doesn't have to be green. Green, I think green has come from Hollywood. I've been told it works best with the human skin tone in terms of enabling you to pick things out, but you could do it with blue if you wanted to, or pink, or whatever suits you. And effectively, whenever the camera then sees that green screen, that chroma screen, it replaces that screen with the virtual content. So that gives you a lot of flexibility. It gives you a lot of portability. If you imagine in a flight simulation use case, you could literally pop a chair and a you know, maybe a standard HOTAS, a Frostmaster Warthog or whatever in front of that green screen. You've got your flight controls there, but as soon as you're looking up, you're seeing everything else virtually, the rest of the cockpit and the world outside. The other way we use it is a technology we call Varjo markers, which are like QR codes that come in a range of sizes. And effectively, when the headset sees that QR code, it replaces that with virtual content. So that allows you a really effortless way to integrate things like screens within a cockpit buck, for example. Rather than having to go to the cost and expense of having a real LCD screen, you'd actually just have a QR code there. When the headset sees that, as far as you're concerned, you're looking at the display and you're interacting with the real control screen that you have on the vehicle.
Nice. So on that sort of subject of versatility as well, like how versatile could the potential setups be? Because I think everything's still wired at the moment, right? And I know that like some of the more commercial headsets have made that move towards becoming wireless, though I imagine there's probably some challenge there when you're trying to get the kind of resolution that you're aiming for and everything like that.
So to give you an idea about portability and versatility, my demo kit goes in an airline carry-on. And that includes a fabric chroma key screen. So that's the level of portability and versatility you're looking at. Our headsets are tethered. They do have a cable connection today. There's two reasons for that. One is to deliver the visual quality to the headset, as I say, that human eye resolution that you only get on the Varjo headset. And the second is to make sure you've got that super low latency, because that's also really important. If you were using mixed reality and there was latency, the whole solution would fall apart. So that ability to get that content, to combine that content, to play it back super fast. But I think the versatility goes beyond just, you know, portability. It's also about the ease of integrating the Varjo headset and the software, you know, with physical simulators, with motion chairs, with motion platforms. You know, effectively, it's entirely customizable and tailorable to the customer use case. You don't have a big a big set of capital expenditure, a big dome room or a big, kind of massive multi-million-pound projector setup. You can effectively have highly portable, highly versatile solutions that could go as far as being hand carried, but maybe delivered in a van or whatever, directly to where that training need is required, or where those people are who actually want to undergo the training. And I think that's where things like chroma key are such a perfect example of that. When we were at DSET and Paul and I met, we literally turned up, we had a chroma screen, and we can take somebody into an entirely different world with real control. So it makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
was it the Boeing you had running? What was the aeroplane?
So at DSET we had a couple of examples. So on the virtual reality side, we were showing the DCS flight simulator, which has full integration for Varjo VR and XR. So that gave you the full photorealistic cockpit and you were flying over the side. We were also showcasing chroma key, a couple of examples there, but the main example we're showcasing was how, for example, if you were doing a helicopter crew trainer, for example, and you wanted to be able to open the door of the helicopter and actually then have the virtual world come in, and we were showing a hatch where you look down across an oil rig as you'd be flying across in your helicopter, but of course you were actually stood in the middle of a conference booth. And it just gives you that level of flexibility. It really brings that flexibility to life.
Do you think it'll ever be in a sort of position, if it isn't already, to almost have it wearable? So I've seen a couple of setups where people have had sort of backpacks with the headsets going into the various hardware in the backpacks, and it's enabled like SWAT teams, for example, to practice breach and entry into buildings, and they'll be like in a huge hall space, and they just wear the kit. So instead of obviously having to have like an entirely green room, they've actually just got the equipment on them, and they can move sort of around the space freely. Do you think there's the potential for anything like that at all, or?
I think even today, Danny, with the Varjo headset, it actually comes with quite a long, although it's got a cable, it's quite a long cable. So, it's 10 meters. So people are able to develop these spaces. Yes, we have, and we know customers looking to use the headsets with backpacks, as you describe. I think it's early days in terms of that development, and in terms of making sure that the machines, the workstations are able to deliver the performance that you need for the simulation. But I think it's definitely a really exciting space, and the whole benefit of mixed reality here, if you take your example you were talking about, in this case you're talking about soldiers or police teams, SWAT teams, they're able to hold and use the real equipment that they would really use and develop that real motor skills. So they're not in virtual reality, maybe using controllers or other aspects. They're there holding the real, and we're able to track those real objects in that virtual space, so that when people do go into the real scenario, they're able to they've had much better preparation for that.
It's that immersion, isn't it?
Yes.
Like with sticks and whatnot, it's cool, but it's not the same, is it? It's not the same as proper training. You touched on DCS earlier. Have you, just out of curiosity, had a chance to play a VBS4 yet? Because I know they're pushing VR, seem to be pushing VR quite heavily, don't they, Bohemia? So
actually, yeah. So we've partnered extensively with Bohemia. I think this was actually, I joined Varjo actually in February, so it's ever so slightly before my time, but I understand one of the highlights of the ITSEC conference in Orlando at the end of last year was our joint collaboration with Bohemia on the Apache helicopter demo. So running the VBS Blue IG, actually enabling people in mixed reality to fly an Apache helicopter. They had a real kind of cockpit buck, real controls, real stick and a collective. And I'm not a helicopter pilot, so that'll be my limitation of my skills. But then everything outside of that buck was entirely virtual. So yes, really pleased, and we continue to work very, very closely with the likes of Bohemia. We shared very recently our partnership with Boeing. And on the space side, so Boeing have delighted to say I've been using our VR2 headset for their Starliner astronaut training program. And what was really cool here is that Boeing saw that only with the Varjo technology could they actually enable full mission training entirely in VR for the first time. They didn't believe that actually the technology was there yet, but actually with the Varjo technology and obviously the human eye resolution and our VR2 Pro also has integrated hand tracking capability, they were able to do that. And then broader afield, we're already starting to see, significant military program implementation. So, for example, in the US Air Force are using both Varjo VR2 and XR1 in their Pilot Training Next program. So we're really excited to see that deployment continue to accelerate.
Very cool.
It is very cool indeed, especially with like the hand tracking thing is what I find particularly fascinating as well, is that idea of removing the control schemes, as we're sort of saying, with like, I suppose there's such a versatility there then for applying to different sort of sectors in terms of training, that where you might be in a situation where you need really fine motor control, which you just can't get with a controller. But if you've actually got all of your digits to work with, then you can manipulate objects as you need to by just positioning your hands as you would in the real world. That must be incredibly useful to particular sectors more so than others.
Yeah, no, I would agree, Danny. I think there's tremendous potential. That's why we have a continuum really of capabilities with Varjo. We've got a virtual reality VR2, then we've got a VR2 Pro which has the hand tracking integrated, and then when you go to the mixed reality XR1, you're then fusing that real and virtual world, and of course then you've got your real hands and your real legs and limbs and equipment combined with the virtual world. Yeah,
it's amazing. So I think we covered a couple of different bullet points there. Just quickly looking through my notes. Okay. So I guess sort of following on the theme of training and things, then, and it might be a bit of a sort of an obvious one, but again, for the sake of potential readers that aren't super familiar, give us a quick run through of some of like the benefits to VR and XR training compared to that traditional training, and like how that can help with potentially things like skills fade and part task training.
Yeah, sure. So I think fundamentally VR and mixed reality, they offer huge advantages over traditional expensive dome and projector setups. People can spend huge amounts of money on a fixed piece of capital expenditure in a fixed place, and of course, with a virtual reality and a mixed reality, we've discussed quite a bit, you've got that flexibility, that portability, that versatility. But I think it goes beyond just kind of cost savings in terms of acquiring and installing equipment. With VR and XR, you can also easily deploy multiple training solutions exactly where you need them, when you need them. So, you imagine the time and expense of getting highly skilled personnel traveling around the country, hotels, restaurants, perhaps pre-coronavirus times, hotels, restaurants, the time and the money that happens there. The challenges you have on capacity. I've spoken to customers and they said, we've got a fantastic simulator, but we can only have one member of personnel training in it at any one point in time. So the rest of the day, people are sat in the cafeteria or, doing some other. So the ability, with VR and XR, you can save time, you can manage your capacity, you can deliver your training to exactly where you need it, when you need it. Now, obviously, there's always going to be a point where you have to get in the real thing. That is said as a given. But you mentioned part task training, and I think there's huge potential here, because why would you tie up a multi-million, if you think about aerospace, why would you tie up a multi-million-dollar or pound asset, or maybe tens of millions of pound asset, to run through procedural training that you could do in a completely immersive way in VR and mixed reality? So there's a huge potential here to kind of 10x your capacity, rather than having a limited number of aircraft and a limited number of locations, which of course are highly expensive for every hour you want to use them. And then I think beyond the cost, beyond the portability and the flexibility, you need to think about the training effectiveness as well. So with all of our Varjo headsets all having the built-in eye tracking capability, you can actually track and record all of the training sessions. In its simplest way, you can record the gaze tracking overlaid on the training session. We're able to give you both the video recording and also a CSV file with all of the XY coordinates of where people have been looking and where they've been dwelling, so that when you're sitting down after the training session, you want to assess how the trainees performed, you've got all of that data available to you and integrated into the application. Of course, you can go, that's the simplest sense, you can go to the full length of integrating our eye tracking with other biometric sensors, and people are looking at that level of analytics. We partner with a company, for example, called iMotion, to allow you to combine those different biometric sensor data. But in essence, you know, when you've done a VR and mixed reality training, you know exactly how the trainee acted, you know exactly how they reacted, how the stimulus have affected them, and you're not reliant on someone saying, yeah, I noticed that, yes, I did that. You know exactly, did they follow the correct procedure, and how did they go through the process?
Yeah, that's very cool. So I guess it's that whole thing of it's sort of bridging the gap, but it's also offering that kind of evaluative and analytical side of things as well for reflecting on the training itself, which is really valuable. So
yeah, and I think, Danny, it's not just bridging the gap, it can also entirely replace it. You know, you've got that visual quality which is unparalleled in a Varjo headset. With VR and XR, you've also got, you know, think about situations that simulators or caves are not, you know, always ideally suitable. Anytime you need to look back over your shoulder or see what's happening behind you. In fact, there's one company in the UK looking actually using our headsets in exactly that situation where people need to be able to reverse, you know, within the vehicle, and you want to have that full 360-degree immersion. You're able to deliver that, obviously, in an unparalleled way with a virtual reality or mixed reality headset.
Sure. And then if you sort of, I guess, in both the technical sense as well as potentially maybe even reluctancy in the industry, have there any been like particular difficulties that you've had to overcome? I'm sure there's probably been quite a few, but is there anything that's been particularly standout for having to work your way around or over in terms of, like I say, either technological or people accepting it into their forms of training and things like that?
Yeah, so no, it's a very good question. I think, yeah, obviously as Varjo, we're a relatively new company. But I think that what's been really positive for us has been every time people try on the headset, including yourselves, you know, there's just a tremendous response. Everybody's, you know, when Paul and I met, we were at DSET earlier in the year, and I watched the queue for demos grow over the 2 days. From the beginning of the day, people being, who are these Varjo, or probably who are these Varjo people? You know, who are these Varjo people? Yeah. And then by the end of the 2 days, we had a steady queue of people who just wanted to experience the technology. So I think, you know, similar to many people, the whole, you know, coronavirus, COVID-19 has had an impact in terms of our ability to showcase the technology in person. Obviously, like yourselves, you know, looked at making materials and videos and immersive and really webinars, which have been hugely successful to enable people to really understand how the technology works. But of course, that's been a challenge because, you know, we really want people to experience that technology. In terms of industries, if I kind of flipped it a little bit and said, yeah, where do I see the biggest potential? I think they're making progress, but there's so much more we can do. I talk about what we call AEC, so architecture, engineering and construction. You know, in essence, being able to step into a building or step into a facility before you've actually built it. And of course, if you're using a Varjo headset or Varjo mixed reality headset, you know, you can do that in, you know, the same quality that you're going to see when you really built the building. So just an incredible potential, but it has been slower to see the adoption in the AEC space. So I think that's somewhere where we continue to, you know, across many areas, but we continue to build there. But I think when it catches up in AEC, it's just going to explode, because that, you know, if you think about the cost and the time about actually building these facilities, and now you can actually have that in actually the same quality as it would be in the real world. That potential is massive. So I really look forward to seeing that grow.
Cool. And what would you say the future of VR and XR looks like? Is there anything you're aiming for in particular that you haven't quite got to yet? Sort of things on the horizon?
Oh, I have to say it's exciting. This is one of the reasons I joined Varjo. I've spent the last 15 years working with smartphones, so had an exciting ride through that journey. And the reason I came to Varjo is that I really saw this potential of immersive computing in this space. I think, our mixed reality XR1, we call it XR1 Developer Edition. I think that has huge potential for the future. And this is specifically in terms of how you can combine the real and the virtual world in a way that you just won't be able to tell it apart. And that is opening kind of really, really powerful new avenues for training. Of course, one of the factors with virtual reality is you're closed off from the world. You're in your virtual world, and people have lots of different ways of trying to bring avatars and bring things closer. But you're in your virtual world. With mixed reality, you can now sit side by side with another training participant, with a partner. There are many tasks in life we don't do on our own. We have with somebody else. They can hand you handwritten notes, and now you can read them. The latency, as I say, is so low. You can see each other talking. It becomes entirely natural. So I think that potential of mixed reality, and that future where you're genuinely going to look and say, I have no idea whether this is real or until you actually try and touch it, and maybe haptics and all those technologies will come in there as well. I think that is really exciting, and it's that kind of it's almost like Star Trek or Star Wars in terms of these kind of holodeck type experiences. But I think, in essence, mixed reality, it's hugely exciting. The flexibility, how natural it is. I already see today that quite often senior management are more comfortable in the mixed reality use cases, because you can experience the content, you can give feedback, you can see what's happening, but you can still interact entirely naturally with the room, with the other people. You can read people's reactions and maintain that kind of emotional connection, which is really important to business as well.
Yeah, so it's almost like the XR doesn't alienate as much as a virtual space does, because, like you say, you're actually still within your own environment. It's just that things are being overlaid at the top of it, as opposed to you having to completely enter a different space entirely, that being the virtual space.
So I think the virtual, I wouldn't say it alienates. I think that's too strong a word. I think the nature of kind of virtual reality is that it takes you entirely into that space. The benefit of mixed reality is you can have a much broader range of inputs and stimulus and interactions, because you're in, as you say, you're in your natural or maybe natural environment's the wrong word, but you're in the real relevant space, whether that be a design studio, whether that be a building site, whether that be a kind of an aircraft hangar, or a production line, or a factory floor. You're always in that context in which you're kind of using the technology. Yeah,
that's cool. So you mentioned holodecks. What is the end goal for Varjo? What is the end goal? Is there an end goal, or is it going to be an ever ongoing process?
Well, I think the wonders and the joy of the technology industry is it's always about pushing and pushing and pushing. So, for Varjo, we're going to continue to push the boundaries of what's possible in virtual reality and mixed reality. I think you've seen us push the boundaries of the visual quality. Now we've got that photorealistic quality, human eye resolution. You've seen us, focusing on kind of creative areas, simulation training, medical research, but we want to go far beyond that. We want to be able to go to all enterprise use cases, and I think ultimately all professionals, and it comes down to that potential in mixed reality. If we can make it so that you can no longer tell apart what's virtual and what's real, imagine the potential. It's like all of our interactions and how we want to combine that. You know, at Varjo, we're not just a hardware company. You know, we've got a tremendous software capability. We think about it as delivering an overall solution. We've spoken about the software roadmap that we've got. It's you know, it's entirely driven by customer feedback. As I said, it's that customer feedback that delivered Chroma Key in record time via our software roadmap into our customers. Varjo Markers is another technology I've mentioned on the call today, where that customer feedback has come through. Give you a third example. We've just announced that we've released the beta of our video shading technology. So what this enables you to do is to, in the mixed reality scenarios, you can actually simulate any level of lighting. So for example, if you wanted to simulate night flying or night operations, we can now do that via software in the headset, even though the user remains in a perfectly well lit room. So imagine that capability, and again, that's come directly from customer feedback that says, right, this is fantastic, we can fly now, we can see the things. Now the next thing we need to do is night missions. And we're still a small enough and nimble enough company, and we're really listening to that feedback, and then we're bringing those real solutions. So we're going to continue to grow, we're going to continue listening to customers. I think that's really important, and we're going to continue to deliver real capabilities, real solutions that people are using in real professional workflows today. And I think that's what's going to really continue to mark Varjo out as a kind of great partner in the future.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. Super exciting. Can't wait till all of this Corona stuff's over and I go to the next DSET and try it out for myself.
Yeah, well, yes. Well, hopefully we won't have to make you wait so long. But yeah, no, absolutely. I'm looking forward to. We're starting to see, you know, customers in the UK. I'm sure, like yourself, starting to see businesses, you know, returning to the office, you know, albeit in limited numbers, and waking up. And so it's getting possible, of course, to meet once more, which is fantastic.
Definitely. Right. Well, unless Paul's got any little bits he wants to throw in at all. Or...
I was just going to touch on COVID and what's going on. Is there an opportunity for virtual training to sort of accelerate the adoption even more, because people can't, you know, go out to hotels and meet up in one place? Is that something you're focusing on, or is that naturally happening, do you think?
I think undoubtedly we've seen that the whole COVID world has forced people to really reappraise how we were working in many aspects. Yes, I would say that it has increased the attention and the focus on you know, the use of VR and use of mixed reality in professional use case. If I give you just a general example, you know, maybe in the past you would have flown in your chief designer from halfway around the world for a business review every month. Are you necessarily going to be doing that for the next few months? So you know, that's meant if you look at things like the automotive space, where we partner with Autodesk VRED, which is used by a lot of the car design teams. There it's possible to do remote collaboration using Varjo headsets are integrated, so the VR2 headset is integrated into VRED to do remote collaboration in VR from multiple sites with an entirely, you know, realistic model. So you're definitely seeing more and more of a pull for that, of a replacement of physical processes with digital technology. You know, obviously it's brought more of a focus on, you know, usage practices and hygiene, and I'm really pleased that the Varjo headsets are designed, as I say, they're designed for professional usage. So for example, you know, things like the headsets are easy to clean. We recently released, you know, some guidance to our customers in terms of, you know, how best to, we did a blog post on how best to maintain hygiene in different situations, but very simply things like the face masks are attached with Velcro on a Varjo. So essentially you could assign an individual face mask to each individual. They're really easy to clean. So you can wipe them with antibacterial wipes. You can use normal lens, you know, like Zeiss optical wipes on the lenses, so that you can maintain that hygiene. So yes, long answer to a short question, but yes, we're definitely seeing a change. I think we're well positioned for that. And as I say, we'll continue to focus on on our kind of key professional users and how we can bring solutions to them. You may have seen we partnered with a company called Meet in VR, who are basically allow you to meet in virtual and in mixed reality. They have full integration and support for the Varjo headsets. So again, that allows you to meet in human eye resolution, so in full photorealistic quality.
Ready Player One, it's coming.
The potential. I was so excited reading that. I think that's everybody's favourite book in our industry.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I think that's everything, Danny.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. There's a wealth of information there.